Hello, folks, and welcome to the Distributed Experience. I'm excited today to welcome another guest. Today, I have Marc Sims with me, who is the Director of Sales for Franklin International, and he comes to us today from the great state of Ohio, in the capital of Ohio, Columbus. Marc, welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having me, Chris. Glad to be here.
Great. So, as you know at this point from seeing other videos, there's not a lot of dilly-dally. We jump right into the conversation. So we're going to get right to it if that's okay with you, Marc.
Sounds great. Let's do it.
Okay. So we start out with the definition, the hardest thing to define here. Everybody has a little bit different view on what customer experience means. Marc, why don't you share with us what your opinion of the definition of customer experience is?
Yeah, that could go a lot of different ways. I mean, you can get really technical with that question or an answer. I like to keep it simple. I think customer experience is one-on-one honest communication. I think there's been a lost art as far as actually having that type of conversations with so much things and done by text and email, but actually just getting on the phone, and then obviously through the pandemic, and then going through all the industry shortages and allocations, there's been so much communication that has been needed in our industry, and doing the video conferencing and the scheduled conferences is something that I do probably 4 or 5 times a week. It can be exhausting, but I know our customers really, really appreciate it. I can't tell you how many times I've been told that, Marc, the news you're giving us may not be the best news, but you're the only one that's really communicating with us, and that allows us to plan for our business. I think over that time, I've been doing this for a long time in this industry, over 20 years, and I'd say based on the last 2 years, just dealing with the pandemic and then all the allocations and shortages, my relationships with customers has increased tenfold just in the last 2 years because of this constant communication face-to-face or over the phone, rather than just these long emails and text messages.
Well, I appreciate that perspective. There are certain people that if you ask them what customer experience means, they'll go right to digital. And you kind of went the opposite direction. So
I did. I went old school.
You went old school, and I think what's old is always going to end up being new again. So
yeah,
appreciate that perspective. So now, when you think about your industry as a whole, and you're on the supplier side, right? You're on the brand and supplier side. When you think about customer experience, especially in your definition there, whose job is it to focus on customer experience? And I have one disclaimer: you can't say everyone.
Yeah, that's it really is everyone, but I really take it as it's the face of the company who's in contact with the customers. So typically, obviously, that's your sales and marketing people. They're the ones out in the field, in front of customers at trade shows, speaking with them. So how you present yourself and how you present your customer experience and the things that you can offer to make everyone else's job and experience and operation simple comes from those people, and that also includes, your customer service team as well. But it's really the sales and marketing people that I think that take that information back internally, and then you develop a plan of how to develop the most successful customer experience you can provide to your end customer. I mean, and that's where it all starts. You're looked at in sales and marketing as, how do we best service our customer? And like you said, you can't say everyone, but you need everyone's help then to actually execute that plan, because we don't have the answer. We're just almost really the messenger back and forth between the customer and your internal operations. Yeah.
No, it's a great point. I think it goes straight in with your definition there around what does customer experience mean. You're focused on that personal interaction, that face-to-face, or in some cases camera-to-camera interaction. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so when you think about your organization right now, coming from the supplier side, coming from a little bit upstream, right? You go to market through distribution, and then others, even further downstream. What is one thing that your organization is doing to improve the customer experience throughout the value chain?
Yeah, there's a lot of things we're doing, but I would say the one thing that we concentrate on the most and focus on the most and really try to be the best at in the industry is technical service. We're in the adhesive, sealant, and glue business, and it's a very technical product, despite what everyone thinks that, it's the same stuff in the pail or cartridge or whatever. It's really not. It really varies as far as the installation, the types of products and building materials you're working with. And the one thing we do is we do not do anything automated. We have 4 full-time technical representatives that answer the phone live. We don't do the teleprompted call in, press 1, press 2. If you're like me, anytime I hear that, I get annoyed and I just hit 00 to hit a live person. So when you call into our company and get technical service, you get a live person answering it 5 days a week, 8 to 5 Eastern Standard Time. And these people are well trained. They've have 15, 20 years experience. It's a line for anyone to call. It's the distributor, the contractor on the job, a retailer, a homeowner, DIYer, anyone. Even I've used it. I've been in front of customers at trade shows and someone has a question I can't answer. I call our technical service line. And that is one thing that we focus on, because obviously if a job goes bad, it's a headache for everyone. So we'd rather take care of any issues up front and avoid that altogether by having a strong technical service department.
Well, I think that what you point out there is really important, because a lot of times, especially in industries where customer experience is newer thinking, right? It's a newer topic. Sometimes you hear people say, well, we're all about the customer, until it gets expensive to be all about the customer,
Yes.
right? Until we actually have to put our money where our mouth is. We're all about the customer as long as we can do it in a really cost efficient way. And having body staff phones is not necessarily the most cost effective, but it is customer centric. And you bring up a really good point there. So thanks for that perspective. Okay, I'm going to put one on the tee for you here. Okay, this is the fill in the blank question that we offer up today. So your industry, when you think about your industry as a whole, needs to do blank better for our end customers, not the distributors, not the dealers, the retailers, but the end customer. What does your industry need to do better for the end customer?
Yeah, I would say, and I'll probably explain it because it's a pretty simple answer, but it's communication. And specifically for our industry, a lot of basically you're talking about flooring industry and particularly what we do, flooring adhesives. And oftentimes there's not enough communication between the flooring manufacturer and the adhesive manufacturer. The flooring manufacturers are innovating, coming up with new products, have different resins, different materials, different coatings and finishings and things like that. All great and innovative. We do the same on the flooring side, but oftentimes we don't get together to make sure they're married. So our products get out on the job site and then all of a sudden there's a failure because there was no testing between the two products. So a lot of times what we do now is we get in touch, we develop relationships with these manufacturers of floor coverings. When they're coming out with a new product, we get samples, we test, we make sure they're compatible. So when they're out in the job site, there's no failures, because oftentimes when that doesn't happen, a failure can happen, but who's really at fault? And then all we know is the end customer, the end dealer, the end customer has to fix the issue. So we want to avoid all that by having excellent communication prior to that and working together as an industry between the manufacturers.
It's funny, communication in some form usually ends up being the answer to that question from the other folks I've spoken to, but it's not always the same. It's not always communication in the same way, right? Yeah. It's communication between various partners, along the value chain. And that's a really good point, that who pays the price if you're not in sync on what the products are supposed to do? The consumer pays the price, right? They're the ones that have to have a job replaced, or, it's delayed, or there's frustrations, and removing friction from them is the key, right? So great feedback there. Okay, we're going to move on to our final question. This is take you out of the business world into kind of your personal habits and your personal preferences. But what is one company or brand who has won you over with their customer experience?
Wow, that's a tough one. I mean, there's so many to choose from that pop in my head. I will have to say probably Netflix. And I say that because I've been a customer from day one when they first started, when, I don't know if anyone remembers, where it was all order, you'd put in a queue, you get a disc, watch a movie, send it back. It took out, Blockbuster and all the video rentals. But what was interesting is that medium changed so quickly, and they changed with the times. That was before high-speed internet came. So as soon as high-speed internet came, they had limited content on there. Quickly, obviously, it's grown into what it is today, where it's unlimited blockbuster movies. They now do their own content and signing A-list actors, comedians. They have just, in a fast-paced moving industry, have always stayed one step ahead, and I've just been amazed. It's a great product. I don't know anybody. It's hard to find someone who does not have a Netflix subscription. And what I find amazing about that is that's a luxury. It's not a necessity. So the fact that, 8 out of 10 people you ask, do you have a Netflix subscription, they say yes, is just amazing to me on a luxury item like that, quite frankly, isn't cheap either. Just being able to, that just shows you that if you deliver a great product, people are willing to pay for it. Yeah,
that's a great point. People are ditching their gym memberships before their Netflix subscriptions.
Exactly.
That's for sure. Exactly. So, Marc, we appreciate the insights today. Thanks for joining us on the Distributed Experience, and we'll be in touch in the future. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thanks again for having me.